I'm Marna, and I wanted to remind you about the upcoming collab that I am doing with J Dolls UK and the challenge that we have put out to you to show your doll in a black wedding dress. And today I'm going to show you how I made Barbie's black wedding dress. And it was easy, but it wasn't easy because this is not good fabric to sew. All of these little shiny square pieces and the little reflective pieces here that look like glitter are actually like, I don't know, like a plastic on there. And my sewing machine, honest to God, the needle eye was fused shut with this plastic. So I sewed some of it by hand, and I did some with the fabric glue, and the fabric glue actually worked out really well. Here's how I did it. Okay, I was looking for an easy way to make the curvy Barbie a black wedding dress for beginner crafters. So I got out my curvy Barbie, who is basically 25% larger than a regular Barbie, and these are thicker than the original Barbies, so adjusting patterns becomes a, you know, kind of do it by eye. So this is a skirt I wanted to use off the Simplicity pattern 8865. These are not inexpensive these days, but you can find them on sale from time to time in fabric stores. So I took a piece of paper. I don't have the box opening, but I verified, or as of this video, I verified that this is the same body type, and it seems to be. I lifted one leg and laid her beside, and that looks about right. Close enough for what we're doing. I took this over to the window. First thing I did was I got a piece of paper and found that this is a bigger pattern than the paper was wide, so I added some tape, took it over to the window, put this against the window, laid my paper over it, and I went, as you can see, a little larger. I drew the regular size waistline and then went my larger size. I made it longer and wider because it's not just the waist. The hips are bigger, the legs are bigger, the stomach's everything's bigger. So if you only took it out the waist, it would fall on the doll shorter. So I laid my paper over the pattern, made it a little larger, and drew around it. I have my skirt cut out. On each side there is a fold over, and what you're going to do there is leave it alone right now. We are going to cut a piece of fabric so that we can make a waistband. Let me see, where do I want to cut from here? And what you want to do when we get this cut is fold twice. You will fold in on both sides, and then you will fold it in half, and that will go all the way around the waist. First, I wanted to point out that after I cut my skirt out, I tried it around my Barbie to make sure that it was the size that I wanted. Now it's a little loose in the waist, and I'm good with that because this is going to add a little bit to it. It does not matter if you sew by hand or by sewing machine. The edge of this fabric is non-fray. We can leave that alone. If you're sewing with another fabric, you will want to take, let me start this in. You will want to take the fabric and fold it over very, very slightly twice and make a seam all the way around your hem. Okay, I cut my fabric about, well, it's a little over an inch. And what we're going to do is take some pins And we're going to fold this over at each end and then add that working from the front over the edge of the waistline. And we're going to do that all the way around. And I am going to take my pins long ways. Now, not everybody does this, but let me show you the other way. You put that in and then you pin that in place. But if you do it long ways, you pull those out as you sew around the edge. If you are hand sewing, you need to be especially careful with your pins. And you could even use, I often use safety pins when I'm sewing by hand and doing this. This is going to take a minute because you got to work both edges. See how I'm working that from the back and I'm working this one from the front? I've got my finger over it in the back as I go. And I'm going to do that all the way around. I am not cutting this to size. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me pin this. When you get your pins in, that'll hold that. And then you carefully sew that. If you're not familiar with the sewing machine, I would recommend doing a zigzag stitch. If you are familiar, stay right on the edge of your waist piece. When you get to this side, do not cut this extra fabric off until you get, make sure it all fits and you get to the end, because what a shame it would be if you had your waistline just a little wrong and you were fixing it as you go, which we often do, and then you got to the edge, but you had cut it off, you know, an eighth too short. The world would not end, but it would be better if it were there. All right, I got my waistline on, and then after it was on, I trimmed my edges to make it even with this piece. And what we're going to do now, if you were sewing this, you might want to, and you don't have to with this fabric, and it's easy or not. I did end up sewing by hand. It was a little easier than the sewing machine. Normally you would fold this twice and sew that down even with this cut here. What I'm going to try, and I hope it works, is I pulled out my liquid stitch. This is fabric glue, and I bought this at Walmart in the dollar, on the dollar, what do you call that? Where they hang the dollar stuff. It's at the end of the aisle. There's a name for it, I can't think. And what I'm gonna do is put a good portion on there, take my toothpick, and I get that all the way to the top, all the way to every edge. Let me get that all the way to that edge and all the way to this edge. I personally am heavy-handed. Let me see if I can take some off here. But I would rather have too much than too little. I know. Sometimes I make a mess. But again, if you have too little, you've gone through all of the steps and then it doesn't stick. I cut that a little bit there and I don't know how or why. Then I'm going to fold this over even. And with this glue, I have learned you press down and hold for a second along the whole line. I do not know how this fabric will hold, but we are going to find out. Now, that's coming up. I think I'm going to get a clothespin. First, I'm going to add a little bit inside here. And then I'm going to redo this and add a clothespin. I meant to say, always put your Velcro on the right side of the fabric so it is away from your doll. If you put it on the wrong side of the fabric where it comes and closes towards your doll, you can scratch your plastic and you don't want that. Okay, so the last step is gluing from where the opening is down to the hem. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put this on and let it sit overnight. I am very pleased with the skirt for this outfit. And now we are gonna make her a halter top for the top. It's a summer wedding. It's August. It's gonna be hot. So and this is gonna be hot. So she will want a halter top. So what I'm looking for is enough fabric to tie off. That is not enough. And I need that on the diagonal. So I'm taking my corner down and let's see. Ooh, Barbie, okay. I think we're there. So I'm gonna cut this across here. Okay, in the 70s, I made these for me all the time. See how it's uneven? You will fold that at the point and cut that even. Cut this off. Then you'll come around and you'll hold this up to Barbie. How far down do you want it? And you'll cut this a little bit. You'll fold this under. Make a seam across, and then we're going to add a ribbon, and what that'll do is that'll gather this up on her halter top. For the veil, I just took some tulle and I laid her down on it to see how long I wanted it. I have this longer than she is tall, and I gathered it up, hand sewed this on a piece of elastic for the headband. And you know me, I had to have a bow. I don't have any little black flowers, but I think in our next DIY, I'm going to show you how we can have some little black flowers. On my one of my other videos, I did a veil, and I forgot to show rounding out the edges. Jay from J Dolls UK and I sure hope that you will join in on this challenge using the hashtag Dolls Gone Goth Wedding. And that'll put you in a folder and everybody will be able to come see your video, and it's a lot of fun. A lot of you participated in the Dolls Gone Goth videos we had earlier this month, and this particular video will be for August 13th, which is Friday the 13th, for black wedding dresses. Thank you for your participation in the challenges that we put out. Please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe.